Again, that's always a good sign. Actually, we're recording already.
Raquel's on it.
Chuck should be joining us here in a minute. So just give
Chuck,
you a heads up.
who? I thought you took over.
I let him stick around every once in a while, give him some good repetitions on projects, you know.
Bill, who's that distinguished looking gentleman sitting next to you there? Is that Bob London?
It is. Hey, Graham, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah. Glad to I've been thinking about that bike riding. I got to get up my skill to get to 100 miles.
You owe me. I went out yesterday. I should have gone by your house and got you.
I was up in Mass on a bike trail. They have some really nice linear trails up there. So I was actually going. I just did a 30 miler up on Northampton area.
Cool.
So it's really nice. They got some beautiful rail trails up there. A little change of scenery.
That's great. Good for you. Hey, I'm in for 10. 10 miles is about my max. Good for that.
Well, you got to use the hills up north. Go through Haddam, Killingworth, Durham. There's some pretty good hills up there. At 10 miles, you'll be hurting after 10 miles up there.
I know. I'm up for 5 miles then.
You gotta get the bridge fixed on County.
Yeah.
It's killing me.
If my wife wants to do 25, I'm good for 10.
Well, I bought my wife an electric bike so she keep up. So now she kicks my ass going up the hills.
That happens. We missed George. He was on. He was quiet.
Do we have other? How many people are?
So it looks like we have. Who are we missing? We got George is here.
I'm here.
George.
I'm trying to get my my camera to work, but let's see. If not, I'll go to plan B.
Okay, well, there's George. At least in name.
Woody, Bob, Amanda. Top right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have everybody there, Chief. So you
Okay,
can start.
beautiful.
And I got 5:30.
Mhm.
Rachel's doing the minutes.
Rachel is doing the minutes.
Beautiful. Okay, I like
And we're recording as well.
beautiful. Okay.
Graham, it's
Yeah.
Diana. I'm also here.
Okay. Let me change my screen view here. I gotta have my multi.
I'm here too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll do introduction. Sorry, we were digressing. Sorry. So we want to. Okay. Any? So we're meeting is starting at 5:31. Do we have any public comment? Is Rachel still on? Do we have any public comment? I assume we don't have any public comment, but as pro forma, I'd be surprised if there's any public with us.
Hi, yes, I'm here. No comments right now.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so does everyone, I think everyone got the agenda?
Mhm.
So I'll just run through it real quick. So we'd like to start with introductions. So maybe we'll just kind of go around and introduce ourselves. Just to give us a little 2-minute mini bio, and then just so everyone can know, and then we'll be spending the next 4 years together. So we'll have plenty of time to get to know each other. But,
You guys are laughing. The library building committee just hit 5 years.
Geez, I hope I like you guys.
you'll find out if you actually, I think first of all, maybe Peggy was going to join us. I don't know if she just to give us a little send off. I don't know if Peggy's on the call.
I don't
Oh.
see her, but Al is on.
Oh.
Goldberg. I
Well,
don't
it's not
see
Peggy.
Peggy.
Maybe Al is the next best thing. Very, very close. Not quite, but almost as good as Peggy. So Al, do you want to give us a little send off, a little pep talk for our charge?
I just promoted him. He should be coming over shortly.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Al Goldberg from your friendly Board of Selectmen. I was not part of the interviewing process, but of course I was part of the voting process to appoint all of you. And first of all, on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, I'd like to express appreciation not only of the board, but of all of the townspeople for you stepping forward and be willing to take on this most important assignment. It's a long assignment. At times it will be a challenging assignment. But under our charter and under the way these building projects go, you are to a great extent, a self-governing committee. People like me can try to twist your arm and urge you to do certain things, but the decisions are yours, and that is by design. This committee is set up to be apolitical. It is set up in such a way as it is your judgment which will make the final decisions about this building. It is nobody else's judgment. So it's a weighty responsibility. We appreciate your being willing to take it on. The selectmen will assign a permanent liaison to work with your committee. That person's role will not be to try to influence you, but just to coordinate obtaining any resources that you need and helping to communicate with other town bodies. So at this point, let me gracefully bow out and turn this back over to Graham.
Great. Thanks, Al. Perfect. I remember that you gave me that same speech 5 years ago, and you were true to your word. So, so here we go again. Hopefully, I got the big scissors already lined up for this one. So should go by pretty quick. So yeah, just to introduce myself, my name is Graham Curtis. I'm actually an engineer. I was in consulting practice until recently, and I'm working for the state of Connecticut, the Department of Transportation, which actually give me a little more flexibility to assist on this project. I was on I've served on several building committees. I was actually on the original high school building committee, and I was on the library recently building committee with several of our members who introduced themselves. So I think it's very rewarding. It's a great way to meet people. And, I think, one reminder, don't forget to go down and go to the, get yourself sworn in, because you do have a duly sworn duty to the town. So if you haven't had a chance to do so, go down to the town clerk and sign in, get, swear your oath to the town that you'll do the right thing. I'm sure everyone will, but just a reminder, that was on my list of things. And before I introduce, so in terms of, so we have 7 members and 2 alternates. So what I think is a good idea, and we can work out, is we'll have like subcommittees that bring their specialties, and we're not going to decide tonight, but just think in terms of, how do we get people to engage? We don't have to bring it the entire committee, but I think it's a good idea to have subcommittees that specialize in certain things like design, finance, things like that. And, I think on the library, we had 3 committees. One was kind of the money thing. One was a design component, and one was like technology and mechanical electrical systems. And we have a little 4 more members here. So we may have the ability to do other things and, maybe a programming one, but think about what you might think, what you might like to kind of prioritize, and we can discuss that, as we move forward. But that's kind of what, I'd like to just kind of put in there in your minds. So with that, I'd say go alphabetical, but I can't keep track of that. Maybe I'll just maybe rather than just have people speak over, I'll just go and I'm going through my slides. So maybe Bob Blunden, since you're first on my screen here. Bob, tell us a little about yourself.
All right. Well, I grew up here in Madison. I went to the school systems through Madison. I've been involved with a lot of things over the years. I had a business here for 50 years. My kids all live in town, and my grandkids are going to school here, and they're going to be going to this new school. So I'm excited about it.
Perfect. Thanks, Bob. Diane Colcord.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Al, for kind of giving us a summary of what our charge is. I've been in the design and construction industry for a number of years now. I don't even want to admit it, but I recently retired. So because of that, it gave me an opportunity to serve the town. We moved to Madison last year. Prior to that, actually in my most recent position, I was vice president of a construction company that does municipal projects, schools, community centers, town halls, police departments, that type of thing. So I thought this was a great opportunity to finally have the opportunity to give back and have the time. And I look forward to connecting with all of you. So thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Next up, Woody Weiss. Woody Weiss. That name sounds familiar. Do I? What?
5 years, twice a month. Yep. Hi, I'm obviously Woody Weiss. I'm an electrical engineer, and I was on the library building committee. I also chair the energy and efficiency committee in town. And my specialty or areas of interest are heating, air conditioning systems, notably geothermal or geo exchange now, I guess we're supposed to call it, and energy efficiency. So many of the systems that are in the library I was involved with, and I hope to be able to continue in that vein.
Thanks, Woody. And I'm sure these all new members will come to love and respect you over the next.
I'll take the second. The first is dubious.
Right, exactly. Okay, next up, Shannon Schumacher. Sharon, I think you're muted, but yeah.
Yes, I can unmute. I know how. Hi, I'm Shannon Schumacher. I have a degree in architecture and 42 years experience in the business. I've lived in Madison since 1995, and my child is graduating college in 2 weeks. Yay! And she has a job in her profession, so yay! And I have a little bit more time and wanted to help out. So I'm excited about this and meeting new people and doing what I can to help our town.
Great. Don't buy a boat, by the way, if you're thinking about it. That was my.
Nope, I have no desire.
Good.
I'm training. I'm taking oil painting classes for training for my retirement. So
Nice.
So next up, Amanda Mitchell.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amanda Mitchell. I've lived in town for about 18 and a half years. I've had 3 kids go through the school systems. I have a 7th grader right now. I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for many years. I've practiced in a variety of areas. And I'm just looking forward to helping out with this. I was on the Planning and Zoning Committee for about 5 or 6 years. I served on the Madison Youth and Family Services Board for, I believe, 3 or 4 years. So I'm looking to get involved in this. I'm very interested in this project. I want it to come out fantastic because I think it's going to make a big difference in the quality of the schools, and trying to get all the kids together in the schools from pre-K to 5th sounds like a great idea to me. So I look forward to learning from all of you with your amazing specialties. It's going to be quite a trip.
Thank you. Next up, Kathy Erasmus.
Hi, I'm Kathy Erasmus. I've lived in town 30 years. I've had 4 kids graduate the Madison School District. I have 2 grandchildren currently in the district, and I have a bunch of little babies coming up eventually to the school district. So my kids first went to Hand when it was a brand new high school, and I know what it had and what it was missing. So I wanted to give my input and kind of try to make sure we're not too nearsighted, we're not too far-sighted, that we're seeing very clearly in the construction of this school.
Great. And what's your background? I mean,
I actually worked at the Grove School for 16 years. I was director of admissions. I'm a psychiatric social worker, retired.
Oh, I have many friends who worked at Grove in the early mid 80s. I don't know what years you were there.
I started out in the 90s there.
Okay. So you missed us. They've all lived, the earlier employees, they've all survived. You'd be glad to know.
Yeah.
Barely. Some of them not so well. But.
No.
Okay, thank you. George, you're up.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody, and I'm looking forward to working with you. It looks like it's going to be a great project, and so far it looks like we got a great team. So I'll try to hold up my end of it. I grew up in town way back when. My file at the high school was like that thick, they tell me, my permanent file, but whatever. I'm sure that doesn't follow you anywhere. Anyway, and my family's had a lot of roots in town over the years, so a number of generations. My background, I've done a little bit of everything in the construction industry. I've been a construction project manager and owner's rep, and now I'm essentially an owner. As presently, I'm working for the town of Cheshire as a director of public works. So that's kind of my background. My schooling is mostly civil engineering and that sort of thing. So I'm looking forward to being involved in this project. A ground up school is a huge thing to be involved in, and a great kind of blank slate to start with. So really excited for all of us, and I'm sure 5 years from now we're going to see a great product come out the other end.
Thanks, George. Tina?
Hi, I'm Tina Swikowski. I'm new to the community service committee world. I have 3 young kids, 2 of which are at Jeffrey currently, and 2 of which will be going to the new school. So I thought this was a great project to get involved in because I'm passionate about them having a good, safe, cool place to attend. My kids are 9, 7, and 4. I'm a marketing consultant, so my strengths are project management, budget management, and things like that.
Great. Well, great having you on the team. So with that, maybe we'll double back and introduce some of the technical people that are going to be assisting us on this effort. So maybe Bill, can you give us your little give you a little bio on your how many years you've been in town, Bill?
Mm-hmm. So my name is Bill Mcmahon. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the director of facilities for the town of Madison and Madison Public Schools. I started with the town as the assistant town engineer in 1985. After graduating Hand High School, I went to Island Avenue School. I went to Academy Street School. I went to Brown School and the Polson School, which was the high school at that time. Went away, civil engineering is my undergrad background, and I did some other graduate stuff. So love to be working for the town. It's been a great career. I'm sort of on the end of it. This is an exciting finish for me, and happy to be, helping the team out and do whatever I can to help. So that's my spiel. You guys, I'm available all the time. Myself, Raquel is with us as well. I'll let her introduce herself, but she's definitely the background and the backbone between our operations for all the facilities for the town of Madison. The only thing we don't take care of are the parks. So the beaches and the parks aren't under us anymore, or they were at one time. But Raquel and I, take care of this town schools and town buildings. And if you want to have some questions answered, feel free to contact myself or Raquel. Raquel, anything to add on that?
No, not at the moment. Thank you for the introduction. As Bill said, I'm the office manager for the facilities department, and I'm happy to be a part of this team and help whichever way that I can. So please feel free to reach out to me.
Great, thanks, Raquel. So, and you're going to do the minutes and the agenda. So you're a key part of this operation. So with that, I'd like to introduce our OPM, who went through a rigorous selection process, and we actually selected Colliers. Now they have an office in town, which is just coincidental, but they've done a lot of work for the town, a lot of great work for the town. They were our owner's rep on the library school and did exemplary work for us there. So luckily, thankfully for us, I think they were selected again. So if maybe Chuck, I know you're doing like a baton handoff at some point, but maybe if Chuck's still around, can you give us a little say hello so people who know your face and your name, for the ribbon cutting at the very least.
Yeah, right. Good to see everybody. Chuck Warrington. I'm a director of project management here in at Colliers in Madison, so right around the corner. I've had the fortune of working with the district, Bill, almost every day since 2016, Bill, when we started with the first go around at Ryerson and that referendum, and then with the tri-board committee, with a lot of the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and other stakeholders to kind of get us where we're at. So I've been involved every step of the way. Know a lot of history. So, if anybody has any questions of how we've got here, I'd be happy to answer those down the road. But I was responsible for helping Bill, construct the budget, develop the scope of work, help do the due diligence, bring on, we already had a lot of consultants on board already. Phase 1 environmental site assessments, geotech borings, working with Connecticut Water, a lot of our efforts necessary to build the budget and try to identify any issues other than just putting together for the project. So I lead our K-12 division in Connecticut for the most part. I've worked with Diana in the past on a couple projects, so Diana's familiar with my experience as well as Graham. We've worked on a couple projects as well in many other districts, and hoping, I think we hopefully bring a wealth of knowledge to this process as well as the state process. I specialize in that. Adam Levitas is here. He's listed as my name as well, but Adam's going to be our project manager for the team. Also in the background is the rest of our team. For anybody that's worked with us, we have our commissioning group that's available to us that I think helped on the library, if I recall correctly. Scott Pellman, who's our associate director, he's an expert in OSCGR. He's going to be available to us as well. You may see his face a few times with it, but we're excited to get this going. We're glad that we're very congratulatory of the referendum. Happy for the town and finally get this thing going.
Great, thanks, Chuck. Adam, you want to say anything? Oh, but before I forget, so Rachel, can you add Peggy? I think she's on the she's in the outside looking in, so she might. I think she wants to join us. So if you can add her to the as a panelist. So I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Adam.
Yep. So Adam Levitas, project manager. I'll be the day-to-day point person from Colliers throughout the project. A little later on in the process, once we get into construction, we'll have another construction rep that comes in to assist with some of the field work. But Chuck and I, but largely me on the day-to-day basis, will be there throughout the process. My background, just like Chuck's, is a civil structural engineer. Right now, one of the key things that'll be good for this project is currently working on Mansfield's new elementary school. That's geothermal net zero. So being able to take some of the lessons learned that we're encountering in construction right now, both from the geothermal net zero side of things and just with current marketplace forces and changes, that should be good for baking that into the design process here and establishing some of the documents as we develop specs and requirements for both the architect and, more pertinently, from the contractor, kind of baking in those lessons learned into this project, regardless of which way you want to go in terms of net zero, geothermal, et cetera. I think that's be good and useful as we move forward. So you should have all the committee members should have my contact info for when I sent out the email earlier this week or later last week. So feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions or need any information, anything like that.
So Adam, did we decide? Have you run the website for the project information? Is that or the town?
Say that one more time.
Is Collier hosting the website where the repository all the digital information, or is the town doing that?
Yeah, the town will typically has the sort of the SBC meeting agenda and items. One thing that I know that Raquel was working on was Google Drive versus OneDrive. So I think that's still getting ironed out as to whether that's going to live always with us or if there's a separate process, but that'll get ironed out very quickly. But at least for this first meeting, we just want to get everything moving quickly and all the documents distributed to the team members. So we'll keep everyone updated as to where the links always are to get the documents.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, really looking forward to working on the project with us, and it's great. I always say we want the A team on this, and I feel confident we got the A team, and that experience on that Mansfield school is just icing on the cake, so to speak. So that's great to know. Can we? And I think it's Peggy. Peggy, you are you there? Oh. I think you muted, Peggy. Do you want to share? Al came on and gave us a little pep talk, but we'd love to hear from you if you have the time.
Yeah. Sorry, I was having some technical stuff going on. So I just wanted to drop in and say, first of all, I'm so excited to see this committee launching today. I know for many people in town, this was a very long road to get here. And so we're just thrilled to have this moving forward. I missed Al's comments, but I will say that, we want to keep this project moving. We're on a very tight timeline because of the plans to open the school. And obviously when you're dealing with school construction, everything else, you have to do everything around an academic calendar and needs. And so, we're really excited to get this moving and keep things on a good timetable. And I know that Colliers will do a fantastic job doing that. We've worked with Colliers kind of leading up to this referendum, and they've been fantastic. So you've got a great resource there to partner with. I also speak as a parent. I have a child at Brown and I have a child at Polson. I just am excited that the town is taking that big step of investing in our facilities finally and making some very necessary upgrades and to be able to work on a new school from scratch on a new piece of land. I keep hearing, and when we went through the interviewing process with different of the OPM advisors, they all talked about what a luxury it is to do this project, on a clean piece of land and, no issues. We can just really, it's a clean slate. So you guys got a really exciting opportunity because usually these things aren't as clear cut as what we're able to do here. So, and I was very impressed. I got to hear most of your biographies. It's a great team. And, we're fortunate that Madison has citizens like you with all these great backgrounds that will help this project be successful. So, and we will be appointing a kind of a formal liaison. We still haven't, the board hasn't figured out who's going to be liaisons to the different, because we have other building committee going on soon as well, the Academy one. But there'll be kind of an official liaison from the board that will try to attend as many meetings as possible, but there's just a conduit for the committee to come to the board. We'll probably be asking for updates occasionally just to know how the project is going. And because we're eager to stay on top of it and know if there's any issues or problems or concerns that come up. One last recommendation is I would advise that nobody shops at Stop and Shop anymore, because you'll get cornered often in the aisles with people asking questions or having opinions. And once you volunteer for these types of things, but it's great. It's a great opportunity to hear what people are thinking. And that's why we have citizens doing this and not elected officials. So with that, I will turn it back over to Graham and just want to say, thank you so much for your willingness to serve. And I'm excited to see how this evolves over the next 2 years, really. It'll be 4 years, actually, 5 years, I think is the library one, right? So it'll be a big part of your life. But thank you once again, everybody.
Great, thanks, Peggy. Oh yeah, I think you're gonna, there's a couple liaisons from the Board of Ed and the Board of Finance. So I don't know if you've determined who that'd be, but I assume they'll be attending meetings or able to.
Yeah, you'll have elected. I think the Board of Ed, have they appointed somebody yet?
Yeah, I can see Galen is here. Katie Stein from the Board of Finance. Galen is from the Board of Education. I see Al. I see Seth is also the chairman of the Board of Ed. They're observing they're here at the meeting. We just didn't promote them to the panelists. Did you want to introduce them and talk with them?
Yeah, I think if they're available, I think it'd be nice to if they raise their hand, that we can if anyone wants to speak, they can raise their hand and we'll bring them on board.
Okay, great. And I'm happy to, I have to hop off for a 6 o'clock. So you'll lose a box and you'll have a room for somebody else to come on. So, but once again, thank you so much, guys, and good luck with everything.
I hear the Big Y in Clinton is very nice, by the way.
Yes. Very close to my house too. So.
So why don't we start with Galen and we could just let them all on, Katie and Seth. Maybe they weren't ready.
Throw them off with the raise the hand thing.
Yeah, well, why don't we just promote them? Raquel, can you promote them? So it'd be Galen. I see Galen, I see Seth, and I see Katie Stein. There's Katie.
I'm gonna get you for this, Billy. I was cooking dinner.
Sorry.
I was not prepared. I'm not camera ready, but I just want to thank all of you. I was on the Board of Education for 6 years while we were studying this through the first referendum, and was so happy to see the second referendum pass because of so many reasons. So I just want to thank all of you. I am a total groupie about this. And so I will be watching, but not influencing, and just reporting back to the Board of Finance. So thank you all for your service. It means so much to our entire community. So thank you. And now I'm going to turn my camera off, Bill. Get you.
Oh, there's Seth.
Oh, yeah. Who's next?
So we have Seth and we have Galen. I maybe they weren't ready either. I don't know.
I think it's Katie. I saw Katie. Yeah. Okay. Well, she was okay.
So we have Seth, Klaskin, who's the chairman of the Board of Ed, and we have Galen. There's Seth. Maybe he doesn't want to be. There he is.
Hi there. I would echo, thank you, Bill. I would echo what Katie said. I was on the Board of Ed for about 12 years, and for about 10 of those years, we were studying some kind of building and construction, and ultimately school renewal. And then I was off the board for a couple of years. I'm back on the board, and I have a tremendous interest in this. I have 3 daughters who have been through the system, one of whom is still a junior at hand. And I just want to thank you all for stepping up. It seems like we have an amazing crew, some of whom have come over from the library crew, who did really well. And I just, wish you the best with your charge. As a liaison, let me know if there's anything I can do to help. The Board of Ed would like also to be kept abreast of what's going on. And the only thing I would make a pitch for is if at some point during the design phase, as well as, toward the end, when colors and schemes and doorknobs are being picked, if there could be some educator input into the design and the final architecture of the building. I'm coming to you today from a conference in Atlantic City. So it's nice to be here, and thank you so much, and good luck with your work.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it. I stay away from colors, so people smarter than I will pick the colors. So we'll find a subcommittee for that.
So the next Board of Ed member is Galen Cawley. I believe Seth and Galen are the 2 Board of Education reps. Katie is the Board of Finance rep, and the Board of Selectmen. I think they're all going to join us sometime.
Yep. I'm sure we'll be dropping in to see him all the time.
So maybe Galen is not interested in joining us. He's traveling, or he can't.
No, Galen is on in the background. I believe he is actually tutoring a student right now. He had a conflict. Yep. So he's listening in while he's tutoring. So he probably is not free to give a statement, but I know he was very excited at the makeup of this committee as well. So, and I know he thanks you all for your commitment.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I'm trying to promote him, but I think, as Seth said, he might be busy at the time.
Yeah, it was kind of an unannounced.
Thank you, Raquel.
Thanks. That's perfect. Okay, so that's the the introductions, I think we did a great job with that. Next agenda item, well, the key staff, we met the officials. C Colliers, we met them, and the OPM role, I think Chucky kind of explained. I mean, maybe do you have like a 1-minute explanation of what an OPM role is for people who don't know what OPMs do, or?
Yeah, and I think many of you already kind of know, but in a nutshell, we work for you. I mean, I think that's clear, but we always like to stress that because there are times where some owners rep, they kind of get mistaken with being the owner. We are not that. We're just the owner's rep. We're here to represent you, be a staff extension. Basically, be your ears, eyes on the project, attending all the meetings as your volunteers, as your experts, and basically here to help you lead, manage, and facilitate the project. Keep it on time, under budget, and move it along as Peggy Lyons mentioned, and that's it at a very high level. We're here to help you hire all your consultants, architect, the CM, the commissioning agents, and others. Manage the process through design, keeping it on track, make sure we're getting all our approvals from the town, all our approvals from the state. Most importantly is keeping track of all your paperwork with the state, making sure you're getting reimbursed as much as you can, reducing as much as we can the ineligible costs, make sure all the filings are correct, and ultimately at the end of the day is making sure we're audit ready for the state of Connecticut, because I'm sure for those who have worked in other districts or heard from other districts, they've had nightmares trying to close out and get their audit done. Our job is to keep all that paperwork straight, pass it off to you, file it, and hopefully get it audited as soon as possible. Again, getting as much reimbursement and we'll be in the field watching quality control, making sure everything's getting built correctly. We have a lot of good contractors and construction managers out there that do a great job of that already. They'll be part of the team. Architects that'll put together some great drawings, but really just here to help you lead this process along and manage it for you.
Great, thanks, Chuck. So let's see, next item 3, review, clarify the role of the building committee members in charge. So I was going to read the charge, but it's pretty lengthy. I believe most people have seen the charge, or if you haven't, take the opportunity. It's on the town website, and just kind of go through that. It really describes the process of how they formed the committee, and maybe if you have any questions about the process, but it's basically go from start to finish. I mean, the selectmen appoint us, so we answer to the Board of Selectmen, just so everyone, it's clear on that. We're responsible to meeting that charge. And one of the key things is implementing the ed specification that was prepared by the Board of Education. So that's kind of the guidelines they give us. The Board of Ed gives us that guideline, and then we implement it following the charge. If we have to go back and change something or request a change, we can go back to the Board of Education and request a change. But our task is to implement it, as everyone said, time on schedule, on budget. So that's our role, and I think we have a great team, and I'm sure we're going to add some excellent members to the team. So does anyone have any specific questions for the charge, or you want to reserve those for later? I know we have a lot of people on the call. Okay, good. I think that's good, because we still have a lot of things to go over tonight. Review the ed specs again. As I said, so the ed specs, I believe they've been posted. I think did everyone get the link to the website that had all the information? And I know this is our first meeting, but we're kind of under a tight schedule, so I don't expect everyone actually to review it, but I just want to make sure everyone has access to it and they can read it. And that ed spec is kind of our marching orders. It gets pretty detailed. It was done. The town hired a consultant to prepare it. Some of them are better than others. This is one of the better ones I've seen. So our task is to implement that. There's so it's a defined scope of work. So I would say if you have a chance in the next 2 weeks, read through that and see if you have any specific questions. I would note, I think on the mechanical side, before Woody mentions it, I think we probably need to maybe let people know that the ed spec, and that was a generic, the mechanical system listed in the ed spec, it was kind of a generic one for a fairly generic building, but because the town of Madison is, so such a strong advocate for the environment and conserving energy and so on and so forth. We probably want to amend that just to clarify that. So we might, I don't know if we need to go back to the Board of Ed, but we'll work with the town and make sure everyone understands that. And I want to make sure the consultants understand that, because if they read that, they might be thinking they're signing on for a vanilla building. And, you know, that this is, you know, we want a high performance building. And whether we get to net zero or not, I don't know if we're committed to that, but we're going to approach that. And for those of you who don't know what net zero is, and most of you I assume do, but just means, you know, no net energy, so that the building itself generates enough energy on site. It's so efficient that by adding some on-site solar panels or some other systems, we basically have no net, you know, amount of energy, you know, on an annualized basis. Now that's an ambitious goal, but with a new building, I think you can get close to that. There are some premiums that will probably, you know, and there's various schools of thought about that, but we want to get as high performance a building as possible. And I want to make sure that the consultants understand that. And maybe, I'm not sure we've completely conveyed that. We did a little bit, but I feel we strongly, and I don't know, Woody, if you want to mention anything or add anything to that.
Well, just that Peggy, you know, has formally committed to me, and I'm not sure to who else, that we will, in all cases of major renovations, Billy, you were there, so it's both of us, I guess. Major renovations or new construction, we will utilize GeoExchange HVAC unless there's some physical reason not to. We've already seen that there's not any economic reason not to, and we've certainly seen the results of having GeoExchange at the library. So if we're even going to get close to net zero, that system is a must start with. So I just think we should make that point. Because it affected, I think, I read through 5 of the respondents so far, and you know, I think it's obvious that they weren't going in that direction. So I just wanted to, you know, bring that up. I think that's important.
Right, and there was money added to the budget. I believe there was a certain amount of money added to the baseline square foot budget to allow for the wells being installed. So we'll just have to work through that. But yeah, thanks.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, Woody spent the last 2 years of his life fine tuning that system. So he's very, very familiar. And I promised him that we'd make his life a little easier on the back end on this one. So.
Save my marriage.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, come on. You know? It's been a good run, Woody. Come on. Just kidding. Okay, great. No, your wife. Thank God for your wife.
Yeah.
She's more important. I should have asked her before if you should serve on this before you.
Oh no, that would have been a mistake.
Yeah. Probably.
Hi, Billy.
Graham.
Yes.
I was raising my hand.
Oh.
So I believe Chuck can answer. He did add money for the Geo system. The Academy Street School, another town project, added Geo for that system. The town campus, if the budget passes, we'll have the Geo system there too. So I think it's in keeping with the philosophy of the town government that we want to be, you know, more energy efficient and more, you know, green. I think that's just the philosophy of government, you know. So Chuck, can you add to anything?
Yeah, I mean, just as a minimum, just so you understand, as a minimum by state law, we have to meet Silver LEED, which is the Connecticut High Performance Building Standard. That's the minimum. That's energy code. That's just the minimum. Of course, you could always go above that. We did add a pretty good chunk of money to for the geothermal, and that's just a budgetary number. It's not to say you can't add more. I think we have a pretty good site work package. So, you know, as we get into the process, we'll have to estimate that. But we did add some additional dollars for that on a specific line item that we can share with you later for that.
So just to be clear, you're saying in the educational specifications, that's where you see that, because I read the request for qualifications 3 times because you told me this. I didn't find it in there.
Yeah, no, it's in the ed spec. Absolutely.
Yeah. So but when we wrote the qualifications, I put in there very clearly that we were looking for renewable energy information. The educational specs was just one of the things they could use for it. But I think it's clear what we've asked for the professionals, for the 11 firms that submitted. I think it was clear in the request for qualifications what we were looking for. Now we can elaborate on that, but I'm glad you clarified because I kept reading the thing over 3 times today. I'm like, I don't see where I put that in there.
Yeah, you know, it was in the ed spec. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is a lot of owners put that in there, but sometimes architects and engineers don't think they're serious about it. So I just want to make sure people understand we are serious about it, you know, because most owners, you see that in a lot of RFPs, we're going to get this, you know, we want a great school, but then when the money comes in, they say no. But, you know,
we had a non-mandatory site visit, which we got a lot of firms. I think there were 17 firms at the non-mandatory site visit for the requalifications. And Chuck pointed out to them that we were looking for geothermal. I emphasized that I think Chuck is downplaying the significance of that point, and that I thought the committee would be very interested, if not requiring a geothermal or, you know, energy efficiencies on it. So I think we were very clear.
Okay, well, that's great to hear, because I wasn't able to attend the walkthrough. So that sounds, so maybe, you know, sounds like you drilled it in. I mean, we could definitely require it. So it's only really a matter of going back to the ed spec. If we have to go back to the Board of Ed and get some relief on it, but I'm sure they won't disagree with it.
No, I don't see why that was in there. I think they were just trying to make a point that it had to meet the standards of today's world. I think that might have been just an oversight on the educational specifications, and I definitely missed that. I didn't see that in there. Didn't pay attention.
Yeah, Graham, they put in the ed specs as consider including geothermal, really to keep it eligible with the state. Bob Selmer, who's with the state, said make sure you put it in there so it maintains eligibility. One, and also when we developed the RFP, which you're going to review for the architects, they just did the RFQ. You can draft that whatever way you want to require that, and obviously you'll review that. We'll draft the initial draft for you, but you'll review that, and you can incorporate that as well as the contract for architectural services. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, that sounds. I know the key is you got to put that. We haven't asked for prices yet, so we can make sure.
That's correct. You have more bites at the apple to require that, and we'll want to really, you know, go through that with whoever's, you know, going to be involved to make sure we cover that scope.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all one of the great reasons to do a two-step process, so there's no confusion as we go to the second process. That we want the A team for those systems. So excellent. Okay, I think that's great. I think and again, people want to go through and read the ed specs in detail. Next item, review meeting schedules. So I think we're I think we drafted up a draft schedule to meet on Tuesdays, Mondays, 5:30, the first and third Monday of every month. I think that's, so we need to actually make a formal motion on that so it gets published on the line. Does 5:30 on Mondays work for everybody?
So Woody, excuse me, Graham, we did change a couple that fell on the 4th of July, you know, and there was another holiday, I think on Monday, was it Memorial Day or Labor Day? Yep. So we did change those 2 Mondays to Tuesday.
Okay, perfect. Way ahead of me, Bill. You guys you're a well-oiled machine. Wow.
And we emailed it out to everyone. I can read it if you want, but it's basically, you know, all the Mondays and then the ones that just had conflict. So if
Adam, do you have it?
Questions,
can you share?
What's that? There
I'm
you
just
go.
going to share that. There we go.
Thank you, Chuck.
I already have it on my calendar.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can you just clarify who did the motions? Raquel and I are sort of new at that, and I didn't hear it or see it.
George.
George, thank you. And who seconded?
Sherry.
Sherry. Thank you, Sherry. So we got it. And all in favor was unanimous?
Yep, unanimous.
Thank you. We'll post that those will be regular meetings for the rest of the calendar year.
Beautiful. Okay, it's great. Yeah, and I, you know, I think we're setting up for Zoom now, but we'll probably, you know, because of COVID's kind of peaking again in town. I think it makes sense, but I think we can do some of the meetings on a case-by-case basis in person, just so everyone can meet each other. But I think it's probably better to do it and more convenient for people to do it on Zoom for the time being. And I know Rachel has, you know, limitations about being there in person, so I want to, you know, accommodate that. So next item, review meeting. Okay, number 6, general overview of the project. So some of you know more about the project than some. So I'd like to ask our OPM consultant to kind of maybe walk us through the overview of the project, if that makes sense. Unless Bill, do you want to say anything about it, or do you want to? You're good. Got it.
Bill, chime in anytime, my friend. Chime in anytime. We always ham and egg these things, so we're used to it. But yeah, just a general overview. So obviously, we're constructing a new elementary school that's going to be located over at the Mungertown Road site. I think Adam, do we have the overall kind of the site plan just to kind of show everybody? So this was. We had done some preliminary, what we call test fits with the firm that was formerly Moser, Pylon, Nelson. Just to kind of, we always like to do test fits pre-referendum, make sure we can fit the building on the site and it's feasible. As you can see, we identified, Polson Middle School, Daniel the main central campus along with Jeffrey. And to the west of it is the Mungertown Road. I think it's off as exit 62, Bill, if I got my, no, 60. I'm going the wrong way, 60. That's just crossing the Neck River. And that was approved, I believe, with the referendum to be purchased outside of the project budget. It's about 14 acres where it's fairly flat towards the Mungertown Road side of it and gently slopes off to the east towards those wetlands a bit. For that site, for 600 students, the state recommends about 16 acres, but it's not a requirement. So that's the site that we're going to be building it. We did look early on, back years ago, at constructing it in the northeast corner where the site for the elementary school is considered in 2019. But to many different, many reasons, with primarily the fields that are there that are in pristine condition, there's an opportunity to purchase the Mungertown Road site and build it there, save those fields, and preserve those instead of having to reconstruct fields elsewhere for that. So that's where the site is going. The building itself, it's projected to hold now actually 640 students. SLAM and Mike Zuba, who lives right in town, is the demographer. He's probably the foremost expert in the state with that. Did the updated enrollment projections. We just got recent ones in March. So that's actually helping our number, I believe, in reimbursement. So it's 82,000 square feet. Included with the budget is also the demolition of Ryerson Elementary School at the completion of the project. Let's see, this project, kind of going back to the 2000, I think it was 19 bill, the district redistricted and closed Island Ave. Went from 3 elementary schools to 2, being Ryerson and Jeffrey. It took the 6th grade from Brown up to the middle school, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. Converted Brown to a 4-5. That was the first round of redistricting. And once we're completed with this project, we'll redistrict once again to have a pre-K to 5, which is this school, and that's going to be housing the TCLC, and a K-5 at Brown. And that has the room in there to house that. That's that program. The total project budget, as you all, I'm sure, voted on, was $61,150,000. That budget is what we call total project budget, consists of the hard costs, which are construction costs, basically what we think it'll bid at. The hard costs, and we can provide to you, by the way, a detailed spreadsheet of the how the budget's developed, and we'll leave that up to you if you want to display that publicly or keep that at wraps for the time being, but it was displayed with Board of Ed. Just under about 46.6 million is the current budget. That includes escalation for the project. That's site work, building the actual building itself. There, as we noted, there's a premium in there for extra money for geothermal. There's also additional dollars in there for the septic system if we have to get an on-site treatment system, as well as extending public water. The plan is to extend public water from, you can see in the upper middle, it says approximate location of water to be extended to the site, extended down Green Hill Road around the corner to Mungertown and bring it to the school. There's a 12-inch main there. Bill, myself, and others, we met with CT Water to confirm that it's feasible, because we are going to have to cross the Neck River. They said they can make it work. So we put a premium in for that and worked with them on that value as well. The project budget also includes about 2.7 million in what we call furnitures, fixtures, and equipment. That's basically everything in the building. If you turn it upside down, it'll fall out, all your furniture, anything that the contractor doesn't install, your mechanical equipment as well, maintenance, not mechanical, but maintenance equipment for Bill and his team, and scrubbers and cleaners for that, desks, chairs, student desks, desktop computers in some areas, some AV equipment, and also playgrounds. Most important, it's very important. We had 700,000 in for playgrounds. That assumes a rubberized surface and beautiful playgrounds for each of the areas of the school. That's assuming 3 playgrounds right now. One for pre-K, one for I think 3 to 5 year olds, and then 5 to 12. They have age ranges that they use. And then the last part's your fees and expenses is for your architect's fees, our fees. If you choose a CM, it's got CM pre-construction, third-party code reviewers, peer reviews, materials testing, financing costs, and a few other miscellaneous, owner's insurance, what we call builder's risk. That's your construction insurance. And then most importantly is owner's project contingency is the last part in there that's included with that as well. So again, we have that budget is your budget. Again, I'm going to stress this is your budget. We're going to help you management. We have a very robust system for helping you manage the budget, but it is your budget and always open, of course, to you at your request. So, so that's just a general overview. Sharon?
One question, the property, I know there was a separate purchase before that of the property. Is the property in the project budget, or was that offline? Do you remember?
That was separate from the project, the 61.1. That was outside of that of that value. Bill, do you want to opine on that?
I agree, yes. The budget for the property is outside this budget. It's not included.
Got it. Good.
You said we could have access to that budget. Will it be put in the file with all the other information we can get to? I wouldn't mind reviewing it, actually.
Yeah, we'll put that all in there, Sharon. What we'll do, I think, what I recommend is we'll put a folder in there for the budget so you can see that. I think you already have the ed specs, but we'll also put some of these studies, Sharon, that you're seeing. We'll put a copy of that in there for you just so you can kind of go through. These are all preliminary that we use to help educate us on the budget. So that
would be great. I'd love to look at it. Thanks.
Yeah, we have some preliminary geotechnical borings that we did as well, just to give us an idea of what was in the ground. We did some test pits. We also did some falling head tests. Those are basically more specific perk tests, if you will, for the septic system, for commercial systems. For it, we did a phase 1 environmental site assessment on the project already that was required. We also have in place, if you go out there, you're going to see monitoring wells. Jacobs Engineering is the operator of the existing system over at the main campus. They recommended we put monitoring wells in, I think back in December, Bill, I think we did that. And what that's going to allow us to do, they're monitoring the ground, the groundwater levels so that it'll help us in our permitting process and our design process. Once the design team's on board, they're going to take that information and use it. So I think we've done a pretty good job of getting ahead of the curve on the design. We haven't surveyed the property yet. The reason being, and I'm sure Graham can attest to this, is we don't recommend providing a survey to the design team, because if there's a omission or something missing from the survey, they won't be held responsible for it. We want the design team to do the survey and be responsible for that themselves, so they can't point fingers and go, you gave it to us, and well, we used what you gave us for that. So that'll be included in their scope. A lot of information there, so I apologize.
Yeah, and then they mentioned you kind of hinted at the septic system being a major driver, and we, I'm sure in future meetings we'll spend a lot more time talking about the septic system and the best way to handle that. And I mean, some of the
We don't have city water here, so we got to do our on-site septic. We have spoken with our local public health official, and I think DEP as well, if I remember correctly. Bill, we did have discussions, and what's the process going to be? So we're going to want to jump on that right away in the schedule, because that's going to be again a schedule driver. And if we can compress, Adam's going to go through our macro schedule, which is our overall kind of big picture schedule, and a little bit more detailed schedule to outline that. But faster we can jump on that, the better.
Yeah, if we can keep it out of DEP for the septic system, that would be a godsend. I don't know if they're it is contiguous to the high school, obviously.
Yeah, unfortunately, yep.
But I have seen on the private side, they've given more flexibility to people using adjacent parcels, but I don't know if that would apply to obviously a municipality. We own both sides. So I don't know if there's any way to keep out of that process. Because I'm sure the schedule is driven by the DEP if we can't get relief on that. But
it was explained to us at a preliminary meeting that if we could deed a piece of the property in between the sites to someone other than the town, that we could stay out of their jurisdiction. And I just thought that, deeding a piece of property that the town owns to somebody else would be very cumbersome and difficult.
Well, maybe the land trust. What about the land trust, Bill? I mean,
no, the land trust is perfect. They own to the south of us a substantial piece. So it's definitely potential, but we haven't gone there yet. But we could, if the committee wants to look into that, I think it's potentially, but someone has to talk to the land trust. And then we have to talk to the town of Madison to make sure that they're receptive to that. So we would have to do that. And it's possible.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I don't know if there's anybody on the committee that's on the land trust, but I know I think there's several people who are very involved.
Yeah, if you pull up the map a little, go down to the bottom of the south side of the property. I think it abuts land trust. Does it say land trust there? No, it says. So where the Neck River is, those houses right there, you see the houses it says, so that right to the west of those houses is land trust property. It doesn't have the property lines, but our property south, along where the Neck River is land trust.
In here, Bill?
Yeah, just south where those houses are. So the west of the houses south of our property is all land trust.
Well, that makes a lot more sense. I mean, I don't like carving up little straight parcels, but the land trust is a contiguous parcel and it's on the Neck River. That might be it's worth a discussion at the very least.
Well, if we could do an environmental corridor down the Neck River and the land trust abuts it, it would bring it out to Green Hill Road almost. Well, actually, no, it wouldn't bring it all the way because we don't all the way to Lynch. We could do a right of way through that, through our property, but they wouldn't be able to ownership all the way. You can see, if you bring it out a little more, see the houses wouldn't make it all that way. Actually, there's open space. See where the pond is off our property just to the north.
Yep.
That is open space along that subdivision, but it's privately held. So we could have a contiguous, environmental corridor through those areas.
Yeah, no, I don't know what the history of the subdivision, if this goes back, it probably predates subdivision, right? This is the old.
Well, the three on the corner there on Green Hill and Mungertown are relatively new. They were done in the 90s, maybe. And that's open space as part of that subdivision, that pond. And it abuts up to the road, but I believe it's privately owned by one of those homeowners, but it's open space.
Okay.
And to the south of us, the other subdivision, they gave the land to the land trust. So the land trust owns it. We could look into that, and that would definitely keep us out of the DEEP and into the health regulatory issues. And I know what it costs to take care of the treatment plant at the high school. Not alone, I remember what it cost to build, and the operation is more expensive than the cost to build, over time.
Yeah, exactly. You got like 32 hours a week or whatever of service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's worth pursuing. I just, for the town to sell land or give it away, and then work it out. And I don't know if the land trust wants it, But if we want to go that route, I say we start that right away. If the committee wants to make a recommendation, to go to the Board of Selectmen, or want to do an informal conversation with Peggy and the land trust.
Yeah, actually, Al just texted and he's on the board. So I assume Al would be the perfect conduit to approach that. And I'd love to, I'd love to hear what Al has to say and if he thinks it's viable. So
let's promote him.
Can we Al, you want to come back in? I mean, this is a major schedule thing here. Or you can just do a thumbs up on your text. Okay.
I'd be happy to help convey this request to the land trust. We need to put something very simple in writing, one paragraph, and I will get it to the land trust board very quickly if that's the way the committee would like to go.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, just at least I don't know if we want to have a vote to it, but I think it's a no-brainer to investigate, and it seems like they would be interested. In Neck Rivers, they're one of their primary corridors. So
Graham, I would recommend that you make a motion that you, as the chairman, look into the feasibility of it, and then we'll send the letter on your behalf and we'll follow on.
Okay. Does someone want to make a quick motion to that effect?
So moved.
Okay. Any seconds?
Second.
Who was the second? Just for the
Bob
minute?
seconded. Who first did it? Bob London seconded.
George.
I didn't see who
George,
first. Did it.
George again.
He's a
George
machine.
made the first. Bob London made the second.
All in favor? I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any objections? Hearing none, passed unanimously.
We will set that in motion with both the Board of Selectmen and the Land Trust to see if the feasibility of the Land Trust acquiring a piece of our property in between to make it feasible for the septic system to be under the state health requirements versus the DEEP. We'll follow up on that and we'll keep you posted on the next meeting.
Okay, yeah, I mean, what may drive it is the subdivision regulations, because if this is a first cut, then it'll be very simple to carve off. Otherwise, we have to do a subdivision, which has other hearing. But I suspect this piece has been, in single ownership predating to the resolution of zoning in Madison in the 60s. So I assume it's going to be a first cut. So just be a quick claim deed to the land trust.
Yeah, this is the original parcel. There's two pieces. The high school was the first piece, and then this is the second. So we own all of it.
Okay, so but it was subdivided. I guess depends on what year it was. I mean, the high school was built in like 61, right? So I don't know if
No. When we built the high school in 2003, we put it on the piece that we obtained from the Jansen brothers, but it's still the same piece. It's not split up. It's all one big piece now.
Yeah, but that was the first cut. So I mean, it's not a big deal. It'd just be a subdivision. This would be the third cut.
We just have to go to the PZC and go through the subdivision process.
Yeah, exactly.
Pro forma first cut.
Right. Yeah. So this was, so this would be the second because it's already made. It was cut in 2003 once. So this would be.
We'll update you when we find out the details, Graham, at next meeting.
Okay, perfect. And I think we have someone who has some connections to the planning and zoning board, so we can use that leverage hopefully. But it shouldn't be a big deal anyway. I don't think, but the devil's in the details. So that's great. I really appreciate you jumping back on, Al. I knew we had you for a reason. Okay, so that was great. General overview. So macro schedule. So does anyone have any questions about the project? I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean,
and Graham, if anybody ever has any questions, obviously we're right in town. I should have mentioned before, you're all welcome if you ever want to come into our offices and go through anything. Adam or myself would be happy to sit with you. We have nice big monitors. We can bring this stuff up if any of you have any questions. I think as long as we don't have a quorum, I'm sure. But
yeah,
we're always happy to have you there if you want to come by.
Great, thanks. Appreciate that offer, Chuck. We may take you up on it. Let's see.
Same with me, Graham.
Yep. I'm sorry, what, Bill?
Same with me. Anybody wants more history of the schools or a site visit or any other I know the superintendent offered sites visit to schools. I thought it was a little premature, but he did, if anybody wants to review any school information or have any questions, I'm available, and Raquel, we're available as well.
Great. Moving on to the next item, the macro schedule.
Yeah, so we have three schedules that I'll show here on the screen here in a moment, but just to give you an overview. So we have a macro schedule, which will show you, the 3-4 year process that we're going to be looking at for the entire project. We've got a milestone schedule, which is currently 60 line items, and it's going to expand to hundreds of line items. And then there'll be the third one they'll bring up on the screen that'll have the sort of the roadmap between now and the end of the year of the items that the committee would be focused on in terms of meetings, approvals, sequence of key decisions, that kind of thing. So all of it will get shared after the meeting, so don't worry about that. But we wanted to walk you through it first and then distribute it so everyone would have it in hand. So I'll start with the macro schedule, kind of sharing my screen here. So you should be looking at a Gantt chart style bar schedule here. It basically just walks through from where we're at right now. We've passed referendum, passed OPM selection, and we're in the middle of the architect selection process. Short order here, we'll be submitting the grant application to the state, and it's a major milestone that we need to hit before the end of June. We're well in position to do that. It's just an item we need to complete. And then flowing on through, if the committee elects to go the CM route, we'll be selecting the CM early to get them in the design process early through schematic design so they can provide input into that process. And then we're looking at 18 months of design, from schematic designs through design development and construction documents with reviews and most critically estimates in between. So that way we can track how the evolution of the budget is tied against the budget that the architect is to be designing to. And that's where we can start fleshing out to see, how things are shifting with market forces, how the geothermal or other sustainable initiatives, potentially net zero, how those fit into the budget and how it evolves. And each one of these phases, that's where we get the input to help there's comment logs, and the architect takes those, bakes them in, responds to them, and they evolve as the design and the documents are developed. And that's where a lot of the sort of the pre-baking of the project gets put in terms of specifications. What kind of systems get put in, what kind of requirements we're going to have in terms of testing, especially as you get with more sustainable initiatives. You start to have to ramping up some of the criteria for sequencing and QA/QC type testing that you wouldn't normally have if you're just putting up a building. So all that gets baked in through the design phase that extends in through the end of 2023. As Chuck mentioned, one of the first things will be trying to figure out and resolve the septic system and the water crossing and all those utility-based items. Get those baked in early so that way we don't run into situations where you have to do rework and redesign later on in the process, because we don't have 30 acres to work with. We've got the 14 with the wetland considerations. So really the architect and the design team will have to hit that early and really nail that so that way it doesn't drag out the process. Then once we get into 2024, after the design documents are done, is when we'll do a couple months worth of bidding. Whether that's GC or construction manager. And then we've got a 16-month construction schedule starting in approximately end of March, beginning of April, and extending through to June. In general, it's a good construction schedule because it helps tie in and bring forward some of the work elements so you can get dried in before the winter months hit. There's always trouble if you starting too late in summer. So we don't want to have this shift from an April start date to a June start date, for example, because then you really start to compress your schedule and any sort of issues that arise, whether it be just work manpower or market forces, et cetera, that can get you in trouble. So right now, we really want to try to keep marching along here and just have this red line keep moving without changing the schedule. So that way, when we hit construction, we hit our mark and we give the GC or the CM the ability to actually get the work done on time in anticipation of substantial completion here in June and then give the whole summer for move-in, for furniture, for any other cleanup items, and before you open up the building for the 2025 falls 25 school year. So that's the 30,000 foot view on the next 3 years or so. Any questions on that before I jump into some more nitty gritty items?
No, it's a perfect textbook schedule. So you just gotta execute it.
Yeah, I mean, if we can compress the design, that'd be great. Depends on that permitting, right? Typically would see about 15 months in a normal process for an elementary school like this, but we threw a couple more on. If we can better that, that only betters the schedule overall, of course.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get out to bid a little earlier than this because this January turns into February, as we all know.
Yep.
So all too often, yeah.
Exactly. So that's the 30,000 foot view. Bringing up here what we call our milestone schedule. So as of right now, and this will constantly update this and issue it to the group, but this is going to be the roadmap that we follow with everyone involved with the process. So in addition to the SBC and the Board of Selectmen, once we get the architect on board, we're going to populate all the design meetings in here. Once the CM's on here, all the different discussions and reviews get populated in here. So this item, for schematic design, like I mentioned, is something like 67 line items here, and details every single milestone that we want to hit and all the meetings in between to help plan out the process. So this will be available for review. But what we found is helpful is if we take that calendar and take that schedule and condense it down into just a simpler graphic calendar format for the SBC. So this calendar here goes from May all the way through the end of the year, and it highlights all the various meetings that the SBC has, in addition to potential special meetings that we might want to hold, which I can get to in a second. And various tasks and milestones and what approvals need to be hit when. So, the milestone schedules can be long and it has a lot of meetings that are sort of just placeholders. I would encourage you to look at this schedule in particular, because this is going to really be this, tell the story of what the SBC needs to be doing as we go meeting by meeting, month by month throughout the process. And then ultimately, approving the architect, issuing RFPs and RFQs for construction management and commissioning, getting those approved, those items approved and awarded by town. It says town council, but that should be Board of Selectmen. And then getting on through design comments and design estimates, ultimately leading down to starting design development, which would be that next phase. So the first chunk, we're just looking at the schematic design at this point, but this calendar based schedule will help walk you through what really this group needs to be focusing on for its decisions. So just any questions on that before I kind of dive into a few key items that we look through as we go forward.
Yeah, only quick question I had was in terms of the estimating. So are we hiring our own estimator, and the CM or GC will have, well, how do we have two estimators, and how is that the reconciliation?
So the architect will in the RFP they'll have their own estimator, and then if the group decides to go with the CM will have their estimator. If we go GC route, the town will hire its own estimator to provide the comparison.
Okay, got it.
So it depends on what the group's flavor is for CM versus GC, and we'll talk about that when I get here in a second. We'll talk about when we're going to start having those discussions.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions?
So just kind of going up for the next couple of weeks. So obviously today we're getting an introductory meeting here. The next regular meeting is in 2 weeks on the 16th. What we were talking about, Graham sort of offline initially with you and now with the group is, the first real milestone that the committee is going to be doing is providing that short list of architecture forms, getting down from I think it was 11 firms that submitted RFQs down to the 4 on the short list. So rather than just having these hundreds or thousands of pages of RFQs, having another special meeting potentially next week to help refine that process and go over some of the qualifications and how the group might want to whittle down that group of 11 down to a short list of 4. All this is prior to an RFP issuance, but as part of this discussion, it'd be the qualifications and the development of the RFP, what language wants to be in there, additional emphasis on geothermal or sustainable or net zero or whatever it is that the town wants. That's the real first lift, is getting down from 11 to 4 and also building out the RFP to support that effort. So anytime you see a special meeting, obviously that hasn't been scheduled yet, but that's something that, Chuck and I, as we walk through the process, the special meetings were things that we thought would be useful in order to help develop that conversation and establish the process and make sure that everyone's on the same page and has enough time to review documents and discuss before you have to make major decisions. So as you can see, the first approval here is for architect shortlist and the RFP. In June, it'll be getting down to, again, further refining from the RFPs when they're received down to the ultimate selection of the architect in this second week of June for the town council to then approve the contract. I'm sorry, Board of Selectmen to approve the contract. And then once the architect's on board, then jumping right into general contractor versus construction manager discussions and the commissioning agent discussions. And then similarly, having the same sort of process for if the town decides to go construction manager, RFQ, going through identifying the key, the short list, developing the RFP. Same thing as we're doing for the architect will be over the next several months. And then also the commissioning agent, usually a lighter lift. There's not as much there to review, but in concert with the construction manager, that's something that will be reviewed and approved. And then really the later several months, October, November, is getting updates on the design process, reviewing the design, schematic design comments, getting those into the architect. Once we get some initial cost estimates back, we'll be reviewing those, reviewing any value management, value engineering that's identified as part of the process. And then ultimately, the final decision will be the committee seeing the schematic design documents, seeing the estimates, seeing the value management and value engineering logs, and then ultimately approving the project to proceed into design development. So those are the key major milestones between now and the end of the year: is architect selection, potentially construction manager, commissioning agent, and then the schematic design estimates and documents getting approval into the next phase of design development. Is that so? That's the, so if we went from 30,000 foot view, that's the maybe 15,000 foot view, and then each meeting we'll just take it off a bit at a time. So we're kind of just marching through the decisions. But there's always the potential to call additional special meetings as needed. But it's important to keep, as was alluded to earlier, keep that momentum moving and getting the approvals knocked out of the way. So that way it allows the design team and the construction management team as much time as they have to put forth quality documents and get the ship moving in the right direction from the beginning. So with that, that's really the overview of schedule documents. If anyone has any questions on that, obviously there's a lot there and you can review it offline, but any questions there?
Yeah, Adam, do we need to make decisions on commissioning agents that early? The reason I'm asking is that really a lot of this depends on the expertise required of the commissioning agent. Really depends on what kind of HVAC we do, how extensive our electrical system is. Do we have automated demand reduction? Do we, just exactly what kind of systems are in that building may determine which kind of a firm we want to do the commissioning.
Yeah, if I could, Woody, the main reason we bring them on is in the Connecticut high performance building requirements. They have to develop what they call the owner's project requirements, and everything you're familiar with. I'm sure you did at the library, the OPR, and assisting with the basis of design. Now we've seen it where we move forward with it and they kind of back it in to be honest. They just kind of back in what those OPRs are. But they typically, they tell us that they should be part of that process, but we can really manage it, whatever you guys feel best to do it, I'm sure. That's just based on our prior experience.
Okay, I'm not really sure, and I just thought I'd bring it up. And by the way, have you looked into the whole building program from Eversource? Is that something we want to get them involved with? Because they supply a lot of energy modeling and other things like that we may want to do, plus benefits financially if we're successful.
Certainly, we haven't looked into that yet, Woody. But as you know, we have our C&E guys in our group, the folks from our Commission on Energy Services. Adam Holshoe is in our office. He works with Eversource extensively on those, as well as we're going to require the design team have that expertise as well.
I think that I may connect with Jillian to find out, whether we even qualify or things like that, because I think we need to get them on board early if we decide to go that way.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
I have a question. I don't know what a commissioning agent is. Can someone educate me what that term means?
Sure, Sharon. It's a third party independent firm who there's multiple parts of it. The primary parts are we call MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, right? And
understand that. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure for those who use a lot of acronyms, and if we do, and nobody, if you please pause this, we use a lot of those in the industry, as you know.
Yeah.
Primarily the MEP systems, but also the building envelope system. That as well in the details. Those are a little bit weaker and specific, and we could talk about those later if we want to have enhanced, but there's different level of commissioning. Basically, they're going in and they're reviewing the design, making sure the design meets what we call the owner's project requirements. So they'll be interviewing with Bill. That's all I was referring to, as well as what are those systems? Those probably Bill, Woody, yourself discussing those systems, I'm guessing, and making sure that they're reviewing the design. And then once it goes into construction, they're checking in the field, the installation, but they're also going to making sure that all the startup is done correctly. They call it a pre-functional test list that the contractors have to do. They're checking those, and then they're actually checking the performance to make sure that it's performing the way it's designed. In a nutshell, that's a very simplified version.
Okay.
Basically, like an owner's rep for your mechanical MEP systems is the way I kind of really simplify it.
Okay. Thank you.
I think the term originated, I think, with the naval, when you'd commission a ship and make sure it was running properly, and it's kind of, refers to buildings now, but the old days you commission a ship and they make sure before you launch it off into the deep blue ocean.
Okay.
The first couple of months are kind of a heavy lift getting the architect on board. If you choose a CM, because we feel if you're gonna bring them on board, you want them on board for that first estimate, that schematic design estimate, to add value, especially in this volatile market. I'm sure we've all kind of seen it. It's having their expertise on long lead items, what's going on with pricing of materials and labor. That's kind of the benchmark, is that schematic design, which is October 7th. I think we're targeting for the first set of documents to come out. Does everybody understand what we're saying in schematic design? In design development, there are 3 major phases. Okay. If anybody has any questions, let us know. So.
Good. So that was great. And that schedule, we'll talk, I mean, that was kind of placeholders,
Yep.
Yeah. So, and we're going to talk about we talk about architect selection. I mean, that's the big lift right now. So we can talk about that and, how we go procure that. And, because I think in some ways the hardest thing we got to do is whittle down that 11 to the one firm we want. In the process, we do that. We're going to live with that firm for a couple of years at least. So that it's a very important decision. I want to make sure we do it right. And it's almost an embarrassment of riches, because we have pretty much all the firms that do K-12 work. Maybe 1 or 2 didn't submit. So we have, really, quality, very quality firms that we have the opportunity to use. So we can talk about, actually, the agenda item actually was the budget. I think we already kind of covered the budget. Have you guys?
Yeah, I think I kind of went over that, Graham. If anybody We can
Yeah.
share that with you. We'll put the budget up there if you have any questions. We think it's really important. We helped the town construct that. And I think there's always value for, you as building committee members understand how it was built, how we constructed it, what's the basis of, the numbers we're using, and how we put them together. So we'll put them in there. And again, if you have any questions, just let us know. I'll be happy to go through those with you.
Great, thanks, Chuck. Okay, so now move to item number 10, which is the architect selection status and process. So I believe everyone got the link to the RFPs, the RFQs, qualifications. And the original plan was to go through a two-step process where we got qualifications, we reviewed the qualifications, and then we have some way of process to get to a short list. Now, the state law requires that we get at least 4, and we get prices from at least 4. It's not to say we can't, shortlist more than that and interview people, but we have to at some point get to a minimum of 4 prices. Now
It's a max, Graham.
Yeah.
That's a max.
A max of 4?
No more than, you can select
Yeah.
from no more than 4, just, yeah.
Yeah, so we have to get 4 prices from 4 firms. We don't have to pick the lowest price. So that's an important consideration. I've done various systems where we do scoring and we weigh the fee, or, we can wait until after we get to the 4 and open it after the process and weigh that, or, I guess I would kind of recommend that, but the price is a consideration, but we don't, in my opinion, I don't think we want to make that the exclusive process, because this, the design, cheap engineering, cheap architecture is not good sources, but we want to do the best value for the town and protect the interest of the town and the taxpayers, and, but get a fee. So, we could have just put out there and said, everyone give us your fees, but then, that has a tendency to drive the quality of service down, in my opinion. So we want to make sure we do this correctly, and get the best possible, match. And so I don't know if anybody has, and it is overwhelming volume of information. If you looked at it, there's probably 2,000 pages total of information in those packages. And there's at least 2,000, there's probably a picture of a building on every single page, give or take. So it can be a little overwhelming to whittle through and having been in the industry, the idea is to, I'm not saying they're deceptive, but they want to put their best face on it. So sometimes it's hard to read between the lines sometimes about who's really done what, because they're trying to maximize. And that said, the firms we have done almost every school job in Connecticut. I don't know, Chuck, I mean, they probably got 90% of the market, the firms that submit.
Yeah, you have all the top players in Connecticut for sure in that list. I'm surprised we didn't get 15 or 16, to be honest. Actually, it's better there's less. It makes it a little bit easier, I think. But you have the best teams, submitting. So
yeah, exactly. So it's an embarrassment of riches. So it makes it harder. Also, it's like the design. Having a blank piece of property is actually harder for the architects to design because there's no limitation. So they've got to really, show us their wares, because it's really a blank slate, which is exciting for them, but more problematic. So what, and I've had some conversations with Chuck about a way to possibly to whittle this down. Let me say, one of the keys here is, the firms, the person that we're going to work with most on the next several years is the project manager for the architect, who's actually going to be on the team. And the other person that's critical in this particular case is the lead mechanical person that's on the team. And the principal in charge of the architecture firm is important, but he sets the tone, and some are more involved than others, but really the person, the day-to-day person is really the key person. So we were, thinking about maybe having like a third stage to have a preliminary screen, let the people, let the firms know we want to meet, just have a quick meeting with, the principal, the PM, and the lead mechanical on the job. And, in this initial screen process, and just kind of see if the chemistry's there, because it's really, that's the person, and it's very hard to look at a picture, and make a judgment on that, because there's some beautiful pictures, and it's like, and it's easy to be swayed a little bit by the beauty and the glitz. And some of the bigger firms, not to judge big or small firms, these are all the middle upper sort of, but some of the big firms have great portfolios, but are we going to get that person on our job? Because architects are very busy right now. So are we going to get the right person architecturally I mean, is and a commitment to, is that the person we're going to deal with? And also the lead mechanical guy, they're even busier than the architects. So are we going to get that person? And does that person have experience in doing the kind of systems that we want? You know, and just we don't want to get the sales pitch. We want the people. And people always say that I want to see the people that are going to work on the job, but we really want to see the people that are going to work on the job. And I know most of these people personally, and Chuck, you know the people, so we can vet them whether is we're not going to get a bait and switch here. We want to make sure we're getting the person, and and it's nice to have somebody who's got some connection to the area, possibly, and is committed to making sure it's delivered properly. So, and so that was kind of it might stretch it out a few more weeks, but like I said, we're going to deal with this for a long, long time. And it's key, this decision is going to affect our experience for the next 3 or 4 years, no question. So I think you just said you went through this in Newington recently, right? And maybe if you just give you a little background on how you did it and what value you saw that.
Yeah, so last year we were assisting the town of Newington on their renovation project, and as Graham said, we had a lot of good qualified firms, and the hard part is who do you put in that final 4? Because statute says we cannot select from a pool of more than 4. So that's the challenge, and you have 11 legitimate contenders here. That could all do the job. They're all qualified. It's not a matter of who's qualified, it's who's best qualified and who's the best fit for the town of Madison and for your project. So instead of just going from, I think we had 14 and going to 4, and you end up picking from pictures. You end up picking from, information that, as Graham said, doesn't really give you the best sense and the truest sense of who they are. So we had recommended, this first time we did it, is, well, why don't we bring in their key players and have a 20-25-minute conversation. They didn't present. They weren't allowed to do a PowerPoint. That was like tying our hands together. They're like, why can't we present? We're like, we want to just talk and learn who you are. What is your style? What do you see for opportunities on the project? What do you see for challenges on the project? How are you going to service the project? Like, hey, when we have if there's a problem, how are you going to service it? Are you going to step up and own it? Or, whatever questions you have, basically trying to get a feel for who's the players here. And that committee, they felt there was value in it. And I told Graham I can connect you with the committee chair. They felt there was value in doing that, and it helped them shortlist down to the 4 they really were interested in talking with further. Sharon.
I think that's great. I 100% agree we should do that. And I also think we should do it in person instead of on Zoom. Is that possible?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I really do think body language and presentation and confidence and all that doesn't always read on the camera. And I think I think it would be really important if we're going to look for chemistry, which I think is very, very important, that we do it in person. So, and by the way, I read all 11 of them, and I do have a short list. And I have 3 I don't even want to talk to. So there you go. I'll tell you why when you want to know. So.
Talk offline.
So can I just weigh in for a second as well? I agree. I think that's a great idea. Coming out of the industry, there's a lot of glitz and glamour that comes with some of these packages. And then when you start drilling down, and you really need to find out who the people are. So I'm all on board with that. Relative to the fee piece of it, I do think that it's important that we are able to look at those fees as we interview the final 4 firms. And just for clarification, this kind of preliminary with the PM and, some of the key team members, the mechanical, this is all going to be preliminary to the shortlist, correct?
Correct. That's our intent.
That's the intent, Diana. Yeah. It's really just give you more information before you shortlist.
Yeah.
Because you have 8, like you could get down to 8. We interviewed 8 and they were all good, right? You know the teams. You've worked with all of them, right? And they're all good. But I tell you, when the preliminary 4 versus the final 4 that got in were there's, I think, 2 that changed out that they never would have thought of prior to that. But they're like, oh, I like that person. And I agree, Sharon, doing it in person is the interviews. If we can do them in person, the CM interviews, there's so much more value. You just can read better and get a sense of that. But yeah, definitely before the final shortlisting. They didn't like it at first. Some of them were like, I didn't want to do it. Well, I said, you might be number 5. Like, okay, we'll do it. You know, when they're 5, 6, 7, and 8, they're willing to do it. Until that, you know, if they're in a 4, they don't want to do it. But it's, I think it'll inform your committee a lot of, okay, who are the players that we're going to be, you know, and it doesn't have to be restricted to 3, but we recommend like a 20 to 30 minute at most discussion. And again, no presentations. You don't need to see fancy pictures. Let's have a discussion and talk philosophies and process. And
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot, Chuck. It's a great idea. I will go back to the short list of 4. I do think it's important to look at the numbers, especially given the fact that we're going to be doing, if everyone agrees, a pre-screening piece of it with, you know, the smaller team to make sure that, you know, we're compatible with them. So we know we're going to be compatible with the team at that point. We know the qualifications will be, you know, we're going to kind of go through that. So my recommendation would be entrust the committee to look at the fees, evaluate that, as well as the formal interview team and the firm.
I'm not opposed to that. I just want to make sure that they don't think it's going to be a low fee thing at the end of the day, because then I want to get the A team on the you know, on the team.
Mhm.
But, yeah, another we've also done ways where you score and you have a certain weighted factor and you weight fee a certain percentage, so there's no question, because at some extent, how do you balance, you know, quality versus, you know, fee, and something you rate the fee a certain percentage, you know, and it may be, and some people would think fee should be the 100%, and some people think fee should not be at all. So if you agree beforehand that you're going to weigh fee a certain percent, then that way it takes some of that
pressure,
that discussion out of it, you know.
And you have to be careful with the lowest bidder, because you may get hit up with change orders for their fees on every little thing they can hit you. And you gotta, you know, so they may have been the lowest bidder for their fees to start with, but by the end of the day, man, they can rack them up. And they know there's tricks in doing that. So you gotta watch them.
That's a great point.
You know, you gotta read their proposals. So
yeah,
and we're also in the RFP, so we're going to help you draft the RFP. It's part of our RFP process. And Graham, I think you've seen it. Diana, you've seen it with the CM side, right? We're including the contracts that they have to agree to, and in their proposal, they have to submit any exclusions or concerns specifically. It can't be, hey, we want to discuss them later. That doesn't count. You got to say article such and such of the B102. You know, this is our concern. Otherwise, that should be part of the process too, because if you get a firm, yeah, they're low, but they have 50 exclusions. Well, do you really want to deal with that? Maybe depends on the interview, right? It depends. Maybe they're minor in nature, right? We've done enough times where we can say, hey, that's an easy one. They're gonna opine on errors and omissions. I tell you that right now. I already know that up front, but those are very important as well. But you're right. If they try to exclude, I mean, and we in Newington, they went with the low. They were very low, too low in our opinion. And you know, we look at percentages against construction, and we expect 5.5% to 6% to be their fee against construction. That firm was 3.75, very low. And they came back a month later saying we didn't include the kitchen equipment design. Well, it's in the contract, and they wanted $30,000 more, and we weren't on the job anymore. And I said, well, talk to the owner if they want to give it to you, but as far as we're concerned, it's in the contract. You own it. And it was a big kind of, it wasn't a pleasant discussion with them, but it's in the contract. So I think, you know, that's going to be important as well.
Yeah, and I mean, that's good. And what I think once we get to the last stage, you know, but I know, and I've seen your contracts, and, you know, and they're pretty tight, and that's why we hire.
It's all subject to negotiations, right? I mean,
exactly. Yeah, you're right.
We're subject to successful negotiation, but that's where you're the best power is before you make a final decision, right? You know, negotiate it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any one of these firms we won't be able to get to a negotiated agreement.
Yeah, they'll agree. They'll get there.
Yeah. No, they won't. They're not going to walk away. They might threaten to walk away. I'm sure a few of them have threatened to walk away before, but but it's hard to walk away from a nice new job. So
I think your town, Bill, I think you said that your current legal counsel is Mirtha Kalina. I think we talked about the other day. They're a great firm. They have really great construction law professionals that we've worked with in the past. So they're very good too, for the CM and the architect and others. So you have a really good firm. If that's who they are.
yeah, no, excellent. Yeah, because that can take a long time. With the long lawyer, you can spend months going back and forth on terms and conditions.
They'll usually typically, as long as the terms aren't too,
Yeah.
if we think they're relatively simple, they'll get going on the programming phase and start that right off the, they'll go at risk. They're gonna go at risk to do that.
So not to be a pain here, but you guys just decided something. Sounds like everybody's on board and you want to meet next week and you want to do it in person. So what's the process of that and how are you going to get down from the 11 to how many people you're going to interview and who we calling and who am I getting set up?
Well, what I would recommend, Bill, is if it sounds like Sharon, you've done some homework. What we typically, in this phase is if the committee is maybe ranked, I would recommend 7 or 8 firms. I wouldn't recommend all 11. It just takes a lot of time unless you want to do all 11. If you think it's worth it, but come up with somewhere between 11 and 4 to invite them in for 20-25 minute discussion.
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody, I don't think we're ready to do that today because I don't know if everyone's really thought about that, but I mean, a couple things, I guess, in terms of availability. So I agree meeting in person would be good, but it's sometimes hard. It'll be more difficult to get everyone lined up in a short period of time. If we try to do it like next, a week from now. So maybe we could check on availability. Just in general.
For firms, Graham?
For the firms to see, is it possible? Because I mean, if we do it, see if they can do it in person and see, I mean, maybe we have to do some in person and some online because, it's really hard to get that many people lined up.
You're talking about probably a solid 4 hours, roughly of your time, and that's a long time to put aside. You might want to say, let's do it 2 nights, maybe do half one night and the other. And what I would recommend is schedule that in, roughly 2 weeks from now. If you could do it, but it just matter, can you guys collectively come together and say, here's who we want to talk with. We can put out to all 11 and say, here's what the process is going to be. Here's the week of, Pete, please be prepared. And we give them a date to be prepared by. That's one possibility.
What Graham, what Chuck and I can do is after the meeting, kind of tweak the calendar item and send it to you for some additional dates. You might want to query the committee to make sure that they have availability on this dates and use that to drive the dates that are selected out to the group. So that'll kind of take a couple days. During that time that the committee members can review the RFQs. If there are any grave exceptions, see if that kind of informs the pool. If maybe there are 3 right off the bat that nobody seems to like, and it chops it down from 3 to 8. By the time we've queried the committee and determined the schedule for those 2 interview dates, we might be down to 8 and then select out the group that way. So over the next 2 or 3 days, it can quickly whittle down to a couple of target dates, and then we can ask the architecture firms to see if they're available for those.
Yeah, so I guess we already have next two Tuesdays, 2 Mondays from now as a date.
Mhm.
So maybe we could see if the architects would potentially be available. If we can maybe have a special meeting next Monday. If people, it seems like Mondays might be a pretty good time. Maybe we can have a special meeting to kind of whittle it down and then see about having some of those interviews, the same time, maybe half or 4, potentially have some 2 weeks from now. Because I know so
maybe
just
16th
and follow up. And see what availability in person or, on Zoom, and maybe we have to do a combination, maybe some in person, one day, and then the Zoom people will do, maybe next Tuesday. I don't know what, or the Tuesday after that. I don't know what the date is.
I guarantee Zoom will mostly be driven by your committee. If they have the opportunity, Graham, if I have the opportunity to be in person versus Zoom, I'm picking person all day. I'd be surprised if any of these firms say, well, you want to do it in Zoom. Well, you just gave yourself a disadvantage.
Yeah, I was thinking that it might be, well, I can't get the PM or I can't get this guy, and actually some of the mechanical guys are the same guy.
You can do a hybrid. Oh yeah, there'll be one after the other. They'll go back and have different members coming in, right?
Graham, do we want to consider some of this going on during the day for those of us that can make during the day rather than have 4-hour meetings at night?
Yeah, we can maybe move it up to earlier in the afternoon. So
Or whenever.
how flexible people are. Some people, are less flexible than others. So I thought the 5:30 was a good compromise, for now, but I mean, we can see what kind of available, maybe we can, I mean, maybe think Monday and Tuesday earlier in the day, like afternoon, on the, where's the calendar here?
I'm not great on Tuesday, but that shouldn't affect others.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it might be good to get a couple dates and then maybe Raquel can query the group.
Yeah, see what the availability is for that Monday and Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever, in that week.
So what you just recommended Monday the 9th for us to have the short list for the interviews on the 16th, right? So can we do it all on the 16th to have it all in person? If it's 20 minutes a firm, say it's a half hour. And, I think you just already made the dates. Is everybody good on the 9th and everybody good on the 16th? The 9th would be Zoom for us to talk about a short list, right? And the 16th would be doing the interviews. We'll set up the meeting for the interviews in the Hammond Asset Room. It's the biggest room we have. And the committee's pretty big. It's going to be a public meeting, I guess. So.
Yeah, Bill, I don't know, Graham, sometimes, I don't know, I don't think these technically qualify for executive session. A lot of districts have done it that way with interviews. I refer to legal counsel because there's really only six reasons you could do executive session. I don't know if these are technically falling or you have to talk to legal.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with the fishbowl room, it's like they're all going to be
seeing each other.
Yeah, I mean, there was a conversation, so they're not going to be, we're not.
Not presenting. Yeah, Hammond Asset, I think if you could do that, it'd be better. And then maybe take a small break in between.
There's a lot to do.
Maybe bring in for the committee. You guys are gonna be hungry. You might want to bring in pizza or something just for, in between.
Okay.
We should see how many firms we end up with, because I don't know, doing 8 firms in one night is going to be, that's going to wear people out. I'm just telling you.
And they'll all bleed together too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's a lift. Yeah.
Too, because it gets hard in and out. So, you get backed up and 20 minutes you leave 10 minutes in between, things unravel. So, I mean, we probably should plan on doing two evenings just to get more flexibility.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And just, we'll do like a preliminary short list of 8 people we want to interview. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, we can discuss that, but I think we want to, give everyone the benefit of the doubt because there's as a sidebar, so some people have had experience with some of the engineers on the team that was unfavorable. So that, I don't want to like jump to the conclusions of where we're heading, but there was some. Based on the library project, there was some issues. So some of the firms that worked on that project are on other teams. So it could get,
Graham, with that one, what I would, if you don't mind me recommending, we talked about it, obviously. I would recommend not letting it drive your selection because I'm sure that the firm's the architectural firm, right? If you like the firm, but if there is an issue on that, there's always the availability to negotiate with them and substitute out. If you feel, hey, this is great.
That's a delicate subject.
Yeah, exactly. So just it's the throwing the baby out with the bathwater type of situation.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to throw out a really good firm who maybe didn't understand the history completely.
Yeah.
So there's some good firms in that list. That's why I'm hemming and hawing about who we shortlist and things like that.
Gotcha.
So I think we want to give it an opportunity to let that play out a little bit. So
I got a question. if some of the people have already reviewed it and have a short list, why can't we talk about a short list of 8? That doesn't seem too short to me, already tonight.
Well, here's the deal. At least 2 of the members on the committee who were on the library committee feel very strongly about the MEP firm that was on that list. And I don't want to knock, and I think they would probably say, knock those firms out. So they'd have a very quick short list of the firms that have that firm. But I don't think that's fair necessarily to those firms that did that. So I don't want to, like, knock out 4 or 5 firms that have a particular engineer that we want them to consider not using or possibly changing. And that's a delicate subject, to deal with them. So, we can have that conversation with them, but I don't want to knock out 2 or 3 very good firms just because they have an engineer that we were dissatisfied with. And I don't know, Woody, if you want to, I don't know if you're still on, but Woody was one, and Woody lived the ramifications of that in the library and spent 2 years of his life. And Bill, you know what I'm talking about. So, Woody feels very strongly about that because he probably spent 1,000 hours of his life and a year. It took at least a year off his life, but he's to the good. So
before Woody comments, if we're selecting 8 out of the 11, and let's just say I think that one of the firms that Woody doesn't want to use is appropriate, maybe he would consider listening to them. You know what I mean? And then we could talk about the selection. But I think if you're talking about 8 firms, you're only talking about 3 that maybe everyone could agree on that they're not interested in interviewing. So I'm just trying to get the resolution to 8, so we don't have to meet again and talk about a short list that everybody might be ready to do.
Well, I think some people probably, I don't know if people have time to go through the 20,000 or 2,000 pages of. I think it's worth spending a little bit. We have it next week, so I think the schedule's tight, but I think we have enough time to vet this a little bit. So I don't know. What do you do?
I don't know what I could add based on what you've already said.
Okay.
Woody
was in his mid-30s when he started the job.
I can add to your point, Billy. I haven't had a chance to read them all, so I'm not ready to talk about it.
Thank you. Then it's a moot point. Then let's move on.
Okay. So we'll set up a special meeting to discuss the short list for next Monday, if everyone's the 9th, right?
And we'll do 5:30 by Zoom.
Yeah. And then we'll try to have in-person meetings the following Monday. And if we have to, depending on availability, if we have to do it all one night, we can try to start earlier or have a possible second night. I mean, I think we may end up give people, and we can give people the opportunity to say, these are the slots, pick your half hour kind of thing.
Agreed. But we're going to still do a hybrid meeting. Raquel's going to be offline, not in person. She's going to be running the meeting. So at least one person will be offline. Are you all right with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to set the meetings for the 9th at 5:30 Zoom. On the 16th, we've already set up a meeting for 5:30, but we could make it earlier if we decide to, as a group, bring in some groups earlier. And we could adjust that later. We'll decide that on the 9th. And then if you wanted to have a second meeting, what about the 23rd? You want to wait another week?
To do interviews with the firms, I think they should be back to back.
Back to back,
I agree.
okay.
So the Tuesday, yeah. I mean, maybe the Tuesday, the 17th.
The Tuesday, the 17th.
And on the 9th, or maybe on the 16th, at the end of the 16th, we should consider another special meeting, potentially the end of that week, because we don't want to keep pushing out the short list selection too much farther, and we want to kick the RFP out the door to get the time.
I do it right after the 17th, actually, Adam. I think once you're done with them, while it's all fresh, that's what I recommend. If you can
if
take
there's
the time on the
Yeah.
17th and go, hey, let's go to those, 4 while it's fresh, because
if the committee is fine with a longer meeting, that's better.
And we should have the RFP done by then, right? Isn't it?
Yes.
We'll definitely have a draft, Sharon. We're going to be working on a draft as we speak. It shouldn't take us too long, but I think we'll get it out before. So I'm just looking at the schedule just a second. We're going to start drafting that this week, and probably have a good draft here probably the end of next week, mid to end of next week. And you know, as long as you guys review it, you may take some time to just review and make sure it's got everything you want in it.
Right.
But we'll be very close at that point to finish it up.
So we're going to set up a special meeting for the 9th at 5:30 on Zoom. And we're not going to change anything for the 16th, and we're not going to set the Tuesday other than as the group is going to tentatively pencil that in, because we haven't decided how many firms or what time we want to start, unless you want to confirm now.
I'm good confirming it just to lock it down.
I'm
Sure.
good with confirming, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm
so
good.
the 16th, we already have a regular meeting at 5:30. And we set it up for Zoom, but that's okay. We can adjust that. We can do a special meeting on the 16th. Would you like to start earlier? We have one yes.
I can't start earlier.
No problem then. We'll start at
Okay.
5:30
Okay.
for the 16th. What about the 17th?
I would say the same.
5:30?
Yeah.
And these
Yeah,
are in person.
Right, I can't make that, Bill.
Okay, that's a problem. So we won't do that one then. So 5:30, so we got the 16th at 5:30 in person, tentatively set up. And the 18th won't work. What about the 18th?
I'm good.
I can do the 18th.
Yeah, 18th is good. Yeah.
18th in person. And we're gonna start at 5:30.
Correct.
All right, I'm gonna set these up as special meetings, the 18th and the 9th. And the 18th will be in person and the 16th will be in person. I don't remember, Adam, did you say you want us to do another meeting?
If the committee is good with extending the 18th to make that's the decision of the shortlist, then that's fine. Then that will encompass the decision needed. And basically it'll be whatever interviews, discussion and shortlist, and then authorization, potentially to issue the RFP if the group's ready at that point. So, or any comments, and then, we might have to decide later, but really it's driving out of that RFP to the four shortlisted firms.
Everybody good with that schedule? So I think
Good
we
for
can
me.
make it happen. And we'll see everybody I'm sorry. Go ahead, Graham.
Yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, so if you get those published, and we should be in good shape. And then the other, so I guess we just need to think about the engineer issue we had. So maybe Chuck, I'll see how we broach this subject. I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
With the firm. It's a delicate thing, yeah. So, like I said, I don't want to, and I'll talk to Woody about it a little too, because it's Woody and George, have the most vested. Okay. So moving on, I think we're all done. That was very helpful. We got through a lot. That was the biggest thing we had to do tonight. So I think it's good we have a plan. So if everyone can take the time to look through that monumental quantity of information and
Graham, if it's okay with you, what I'd recommend is we reach out, Adam and I can reach out to all the firms, just give them a heads up. Hey, this is what we're going to be doing.
Right, potentially.
Please kind of earmark that schedule in
perfect.
person. If you can't make it, we could do Zoom, but it's going to be one of these two dates. This is kind of what we're doing, kind of give an idea so they can earmark those dates.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Hold those dates and
like speed dating.
Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. And whether we do a score sheet or we, I gotta think about that. I mean, I don't know, Chuck, have you used score sheets before? What do you think?
Funny, we've done them. The quality-based selection process is what this is, quality-based selection. It depends who you ask. There's some districts that do score it and they go right by the book. And then there's some that we've got into the score and then they throw them out and they go, this is who we want anyways. And it doesn't, nowhere does it say to have a scoring sheet. It's just, it's defendable. And you can justify a little bit easier, how you got to your final, your four selected. So I've seen it both ways, and it just becomes hard because it's so subjective when you're going from, 11 to 8, more 8 to 4, it's such a fine line with these firms. I think it's going to be more of a discussion and a poll straw at the end of the day is what I kind of suspect. Like, okay, who do we feel good with for the 4? And you probably have 2 or 3 really strong ones, and then maybe 2 more that you go, hey, who's the last one you want to invite? That's typically the conversation I've seen a lot of times is that. So
Right. Yeah. But yeah, with the new building, it's hard to, no one's going to have a killer approach or a different. It's very hard to.
We'll see that in the final 4. You're going to really see all the pictures come in on the interviews. They're going to really.
Yeah. So do a little, just do a little work. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure we'll get some of the best talent. Yeah. So you got to spend a little time to put some thought to it. So, okay, we can work that out. We'll talk about that next week. Okay, so if everyone take the opportunity in the next week, review the RFPs. If everyone make sure you have the links. If it doesn't work, reach out to the team, and we'll make sure we got the current week link. And Chuck, yeah. So give me some feedback. See if those 2 dates work. We will have to juggle around a little bit, but we can be flexible. So good. Moving on to item. Unless there's any other comments or questions on the AE selection. Anyone have any? Nope. Perfect. Moving on to item 11, public comments. I assume we don't have any public. Anyone joined us? Is Gus out there? Gus Horvath, where are you?
There's one person on, but I guess Raquel, are they asking him to comment? There's one person on. I don't know how do you tell if they're asking, Raquel?
Yeah, no, they would normally raise their hand and I don't, no. It's a Zoom phone. That's what it says here.
One of our architects are seeing what you guys.
Nobody's they're watching this.
Right, Diana. Where's Diana? Where's Diana? Maybe she left.
Oh, that's funny.
It's our engineering firm.
I thought it's gonna be on Zoom, right? This will be published on Zoom, I believe, right? Obviously, yeah. So this will be public record. So
yeah, this is all public. We're a public meeting, so it's all taped, and then it'll be broadcasted for anybody to look.
Okay, so the good marketing people will already know all this conversation, so they'll have it on their calendars already if they're worth their salt.
That's it.
We're going to go viral on the YouTube. I can tell you that.
Can we tell who looked at the YouTube? Can we check by name? Who's the viewers? It would be interesting to see. So, okay, so that's good. So no public comment. Any final remarks? I just want to say it's been great. Everybody, I think we have a great team here. I'm very excited about the opportunity to work with everyone over the next couple of years. We may be exaggerating. Maybe it won't be 4 or 5 years. No.
Might be 6 or 7.
Might be 6 or 7. Not actually done with the library yet. So, but I'm sure it'll be well worth the effort for the town and the community. So it's a great opportunity to work on the project. So it's really exciting. So let's see what time we got here. So with that, at 7:35, I'd like to adjourn the meeting if there's no other comments. And hour and a half, we got a lot covered in an hour and a half. I appreciate everyone being ready and
2 hours.
Please feel
I was going to say.
2 hours. Oh.
Let's not let him do the math.
Feel free to contact myself or Raquel. I know Chuck has been, involved in this a long time. Adam's new on it, but he's got a lot of history too. So we're available. We're staff, Chuck, myself, Raquel, Adam, we're here for you to help you guys in any way we can. And, we're available, email, call, happy to give you insight or background or any kind of information that you're looking for. So we're available.
Great. Is Bob still with you, Phil? Did Bob run out or is he still there?
No, Bob had a 7:30 Board of Finance meeting. Bob didn't, he's on the fire committee. He's on all these other, he had a role.
Okay. He didn't yet run out screaming, I'm out of here. Did he?
I wanted to decide tonight. I want the short list now.
I know you got that calendar and that we lose at the back end, but yeah.
I don't understand. We sent you guys the stuff. You should already have the short list. No, whatever works for you guys. We're here to make it work for you. And you know, it's an exciting project. And I agree. Take our time. This is going to be a long process. Let's get the one that works.
Right, exactly. So I think it's great. So we're moving pretty fast. And thanks to your effort in getting the RFPs out, we're way ahead of most building committees. The first time,
I put in the geothermal stuff in the request for qualification.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll hold them to them now. So okay, I can cross the guys who don't have it in there. They're out. So
have a great night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good to see everybody. Take care all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for